telling you, I want to make that a regular stint. It would be a lot of fun. So we got a good show for you today. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's like major construction. I don't know if they're redoing the whole building. I don't know what's going on.
They're redoing half of the building, I think. So,
that's how much we expand around here. Is we have construction every 6 months to fill out a new department
or get more warehouse space.
It's really ridiculous the amount of stuff we get.
And the size of the stuff. That's why we need more warehouse space.
Did I tell you about this collection?
No.
I told you, most likely I'm going to Australia and New Zealand for a collection. Okay, so yes, I swear that's true. I'm going to Australia and New Zealand. It's great. I'm excited because that's a bucket list trip for me. I've always wanted to go. Unfortunately, I can't bring my wife. However, I got a note from one of the guys in the department. He goes, "Hey, I have a collection for you to look at while you're there. 500,000 books. 500,000 books.
Comics?
Yes."
That's way too many. That's just
insane.
That
made my head hurt. Like, that'll take days. Just to even look through part of it. You can't look through 500,000 books inside of a week.
What does he have? Every single Marvel ever printed?
I don't know. I do know there's a lot of stuff. So
that's insane.
So anyway, that's going to be part of the trip, it looks like.
Well, I came back from Minnesota to getting a nice collection that is going to change somebody's life, which is always fun to...
Missouri.
Oh, Missouri.
Geography, name problems.
M's.
Xavier.
So, but yeah, that was kind of fun, and I got to see the arch for a while.
Changed his life. That is not a joke. Because you were in the middle of nowhere. I used to live in Missouri. I lived in Missouri for 4 years, and it can be the middle of nowhere at times.
Well, it was the first time I've ever been on a gravel road, so that was
Never been on a gravel road?
I've never been on a gravel road. I've been on a dirt road going to somebody's house, but not like an actual road that was more than miles getting to an area or a farm place, which is crazy. Yeah. But it's definitely going to change the person's life, which is always a cool part of this job.
We do like to do that. That is not a joke. We do, when we,
it's feel-good moments.
People don't understand the monetary concept, where we kind of go, that's only worth $1,000. But really, that's only because I'm jaded. I look at $1,000 and I'm like, mine.
Yeah.
Don't let it go. And I'm going on vacation in September and I'm freaking out over the money. Trust me. Believe me. Feel good moments. I live for them.
This guy's gonna be able to take plenty of vacations. So. Yeah. So let's get started with everything. And as always, if there's any questions or anything like that, feel free to give us a comment or leave a comment afterwards. We'll be able to answer them by email. So first up, with the comic art, again, I always bring a strip, and I brought an Apartment 3G by Alex Kotsky, and I brought this one along because we have several pieces of dailies and stuff. This one particularly is a Sunday. The bottom part is detached here. And I brought this one along not only because we have several of them and other strip art, is because it has a great detail and a bunch of girls. So, and of course, a lot of collectors love girls in the original art, and this is very much from the time period with the dresses and the detailing, and over here with the farm and the city, the way that it's inked. It's just a beautiful piece and a great example of 3G and Alex Kotsky's artwork. So
yeah, people like the girls.
Yes they do. And again, like I said, very period. You see all the 70s type clothing on them. So it's a great just example, and it's right 1970, so it's right on the cusp between 60s and 70s. So just a great example. And I have another piece here that is what I got into comics because, and when I was a kid, I really enjoyed the card art and the cards. I bought all the series. I had the sealed boxes. I had all the sets. But my favorite was the Marvel Masterpieces, of course, and I found those to be amazing. And as time going on, Joe Jusko, I learned that he was the first one to do them. His artwork is beautiful. Those rarely come up, and when they do, they're quite expensive. And trading card art, especially from the 90s, with the names like Joe Jusko and Julie Bell. They've gone quite a bit increased in price. And this one I brought along, it's from the second series of Marvel Masterpiece, and it's Drax the Destroyer by Lou Harrison. And even though this piece is tiny, it's beautiful. It's done on masonite board, as you can see. It's done in oils, and it's just a beautiful example of not only Lou Harrison's artwork, but of the time period of the Marvel Masterpiece cards. This is a card from the second series, and it's a very popular character, especially in today's pop culture, with Drax the Destroyer being part of Guardians of the Galaxy. Although it doesn't have the classic, it has the classic look, it doesn't have the movie look that we're used to, but again, a beautiful piece, great detail, oils, and this piece is under $1,000. Last time I recently checked it, it was $700.
I'm surprised you aren't going for this. Are you going for this?
Oh yes, I've been bidding on this, but somebody might get lucky because I'm trying to buy an apartment, so my funds are going to be limited this week. So, but I think anything under $1,000 is a steal for this piece. So, it's a beautiful.
Listen, there's always a culvert under a bridge you can live and hang your art on, you know.
If my car was big enough,
that's your problem. Is your car's not big enough.
So
we talk about this all the time when we joke, but we really would live in a cardboard box if we could afford all the art. We would do it because we're crazy.
Again, part of the collection I have, I missed a couple lunches to save up money for them. So the sacrifices you sometimes make for art. So. Next piece I have is a Jay Lee piece, and Jay Lee's artwork has been very popular recently. It's been increasing in value. This is a Blade of the Immortal. During that time period, Blade of the Immortal was a great series. Lone Wolf and Cub, Samurai Executioner. All those titles I really liked when I was reading and growing up, and this is a perfect example of Jay Lee's artwork with the use of white paint to make the character pop and the ninja that he's killed pop on the board. Great use of inking and details. So just a perfect piece, perfect pinup piece to have on your wall. A perfect example of Jay Lee's artwork, and just a standout piece of artwork. So
he's always been very popular.
Oh, but he's increased in popularity.
Really jumped,
yeah. So. Next up, I have a #1 cover, and it's a 90s cover of DC Total Justice, but it has all the characters on it, at least some of the main superheroes except Superman, but it has Batman, Robin, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and the Flash, and it's a #1 cover. This was under also $1,000, which for a 90s cover with all heroes jumping out at you, perfect display piece on your wall.
And most people don't realize that's 33 years old
yeah,
now. I mean, it's 30 years old. It doesn't seem like, it's really that old, but it is. It's incredible that we're talking about items that are decades old. I grew up in the 80s and the late 70s and early 80s, and so now you hit the 90s. I'm like, well, I was in my 20s, but it's amazing to me.
And again, if this was a cover for the normal Justice League from the 90s, or another piece by a more popular artist, this would be much over $1,000. But again, a splash cover artwork like this with all the heroes jumping out at you is perfectly what you would want on your wall. And for anything under $1,000 for something like this is a steal.
Aquaman's lost his hand.
Yeah.
That's part of the cool part of it too.
So you're definitely with that. It's also dating the piece to a certain time period.
Right.
So.
Right.
The next piece I have.
That was actually one of my favorite stories. I got to go back and read that. I had never read how he lost his hand. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Well, that was one of those stories that was just like you're shocked. It's like when who was there was a villain that kept on killing one of the DC heroes' spouses, and one of the scenes was before they were in the oven, and then somehow they time travel or get into a different dimension. And then he looks in the oven again, freaking out, and there was a note that says, "Look in the fridge." So it's just like stuff like that is just like
wow.
you always remember it when you read
right.
it. So, and that was one of those memorable moments. So.
Yeah.
This piece here is, if I'm not mistaken, a Gary Frank Supergirl splash. And I brought this along because we have plenty of, like I said, Good Girl. We have Emma Frost pieces. We have Golden Age studio art with beautiful women on it. And this piece is, the previous piece to it is also up for auction. It has her flying away from an explosion. That's why you see her clothes have been burned off and you see a little bit of fire. But it's, again, a perfect still image of splash of Supergirl on your wall. Not with her suit, but in the sky. Perfect imagery. And she's about to get angry if you've read this story. So.
And I gotta bring note to that because I read this before I put it on the board for you. I actually thought about bringing this piece specifically. I thought the image was amazing, but if you read it, it becomes very frightening. she's about to go to town. She is not happy.
Well, in the previous page, you can see her face where she's basically coming up from this explosion up to the sky to avoid everything. And the previous page with the explosion, she is not a happy camper on her face. So again, a great splash page to have on your wall.
That's a good page.
And a great example of
what's
Supergirl,
that at?
So. I think it was under $500. Actually, I think that might have been
to me,
less.
that is almost a steal. I'd rather have that along with the other. Yeah, that's just under 500.
Yeah,
that's a good page.
Next is Detective Comics Barrow's page, and I particularly brought this one is because of the ink wash on this back panel of Batwoman, and then the regular inking and penciling on the panels.
I own something by him. He is phenomenal.
Again, he's one of these. He's not newer. He's been in the industry for a while, but he became a little bit more popular during this series, as well as J.H. Williams III. But he was already popular with Promethea.
Very underrated as far as I'm concerned. He is a great artist.
And again,
this is phenomenal.
Very few times do you see a piece that has both this full ink wash and then the penciling and inks, and it's a very nice contrast to see it on your wall. It's a nice display piece, and again, a beautiful face on the Batwoman, and continuing here in the panels. So, just a beautiful piece. It's just over $100. I think it was at $106.
This would be crazy to ignore. This is a great piece.
This is a nice piece. So, it just jumped. It jumped to 180. So,
well worth it. It's a great piece.
So next, I have another modern piece from a very popular series, and it's Department of Truth. And this particular piece is an end splash, where this is Lee Harvey Oswald, and it's a series that has been picked up for a show, and the artwork here, I forget his name, but he's done this whole series, and this particular piece I picked out, just like the Jay Lee piece, has a great use of white paint, and it's actually so thick in certain areas that it creates a texture to the piece. So, and it's the intricacy of the painting and the coloring is just a great. It's not just ink, pencil and ink. It's a mixed media piece. So, and it's a great presentation piece for the series. It's a great standout piece for your wall. And like I said, this series has been picked up for a show, so this might be something that, if you're a fan of the series, of the comic book series, you might have as an example of the show that's going to be coming out. So
what's the what's it on? Do you know? Netflix?
That I don't know what it's on. I think it just recently was optioned. Yeah. So.
Don't show it. Don't do it.
So
don't do it to me.
So I brought in my Marvel Masterpiece card, which we were discussing yesterday. It's just like, well, I'm bidding on it. It's just like, but to always be fair, I always pick what I would like and some of the nicest pieces in the auction. So I brought along, and
don't do it.
Hopefully somebody outbids me.
Don't do it.
I brought along another piece that
knowing that I was going to be
again
traumatized.
I knew that it's a cool piece. The artwork doesn't come up often, and when Brian saw it, he kind of
cried.
Yes. So
whined.
Next piece is a page from the Tick comic book, and like I said, these don't come up often. Great example of the artwork with the Tick and Arthur in the panels. Great last little panel with shadowing here. And
the only thing missing is Spoon.
So, but like I said, and what's even better is they're actually looking at art, and it's a Mondrian on the back. So, so you have a Tick page that you can have a fine art piece in one of the panels. So, great example of the artwork. Tick page that doesn't come up often, and has the main character and the sidekick in it. So, what else would you want?
This is the first time in 6.5 years I've seen a Tick page.
So again,
I cannot remember.
They don't come up often.
No.
So. But this is it.
Please outbid me by a lot.
This is one of those nice pages.
Please don't make me bid on this. I want that so bad, but I have too much going on.
Next is a page from Harbinger #1. And if everybody knows the 90s and the Valiant explosion that happened, and on the current auction we have this weekly, we have several pages from that Valiant explosion. We have an Exo Man-O-War page from an early issue. I think it's also 1 or 2. That one's just hit $2,000 when I last saw it. This one, Harbinger, again, a big deal comic book from the series. One of the more expensive images in 9.8. And this is a page from the first issue, from #1, and it's just under $2,000. I think it was at $1,900. But this, like I said, this is not the only page. There's a splash page from Exo Man-O-War. There's I think a cover or another title splash from the early image from the early Valiant series. So there is for those fans, and like I said with the previous Tick page, these pages don't come up often. So.
I'm a big Valiant believer. So, I've been a Valiant believer since day one. They were brilliant, pre-Unity that is. Yeah. So they were brilliant in how they brought their new characters in. So they started with Solar Man of the Atom, and then they had a crossover with bringing in Magnus Robot Fighter. Then he got his own series. Then they did Magnus Robot Fighter, brought in Rai into that series as a crossover, then started Rai in Bloodshot. And they did that through the whole line, bringing all these characters in each new title. And it was breathtakingly
and bringing
brilliant.
Back those characters from the Gold Key also.
Yeah, a lot of that. They option with Magnus, Solar, and Turok to get those. They don't own, like the current Valiant iteration does not own them. I don't think they have licensing. That's why they couldn't show them on the Bloodshot.
From what I understand, the Valiant company was sold to a movie company. So, and then that's when they tried to push the Bloodshot movie, which. Again, it's
supposed to be good. I still haven't seen it, but it landed literally as a shutdown happened.
Yeah.
So it was the last movie that was released just as they were shutting everything down. So that didn't help by any means. But I've heard it's good.
But like I was mentioning, there's plenty of Valiant pages for those Valiant fans that need some art examples in their collection.
I'm not whining over this as much because I know I can't afford it. I mean, I would own these in a heartbeat if I could afford it. Harbinger 1 is a very expensive. I mean, it used to be almost $1,000 for a 9.8. Yeah. Now it's down to about $500 or $600. But it's still expensive for a Valiant book.
For a 90s.
For a non-variant for Valiant. The print runs were really small.
Low
on the early books. So. Very, very low. Like we considered at the time. In the 90s, a normal print run from Marvel and DC was about $250,000, and these were under 40,000, which is very, very small considering now that's what they are. I mean, now the print runs are that small because comics have dropped off in general.
New comic sales have dropped off in general, But again, for those that need an example, they don't come up often. So
and they've been sitting in quarter bins for a while too. That's the other problem.
And next, I have kind of one of my favorite pieces from the sale, and this was over $1,200 last time I checked. But I remember this comic from when I was a kid because I collected the Men of Steel series, and at one point I had the whole run. And this Doug Mahnke cover was one of the ones I actually remembered as a kid because it had Superman fighting all the robot Supermans, which I always thought was cool. So, and we finally have it for sale on this week's auction, and it's kind of our standout piece in this weekly, besides the Spider-Man piece also, the Spider-Man cover. And again, just a great example of Doug Mankey's art. Great Superman cover with Superman fighting off a bunch of Superman robots. And what more would you want on your wall? So
what Spider-Man covers up?
There's a spectacular Spider-Man cover, I think.
Oh wow, that's a big deal.
With Spider-Man over somebody, and I think the Hobgoblin riding in behind him. So
I need to look at that. A lot of people ask me, well, what's in the sale? What's this? Man, I don't see 1% of the sale at any one time, just because I can't. It's almost impossible. I do try and go through it very quickly, everything when it loads up. But even then, I'm busy. I got to get stuff into an auction. I don't pay attention as much as I should. So,
like I said, I go over every weekly once it comes out. So
do you?
So I just the art one. So there's
just the art. You don't do the comics.
Yeah. So.
Whereas I pretty much know what comics are out.
So. And lastly, I brought this piece along because we have several Iger Studios and other Golden Age pieces that pages in this weekly. And this one particularly I brought along because not only does it have an insane use of Zipatone, it also, this particular face here reminded me, and some of the panels and some of the faces reminded me of an underground artist, Charles Burns. And sometimes you wonder if this is one of those issues or something that he took inspiration from or read as a kid and he said, oh, I like the shadowing, the way that they do it, so I'm going to start doing my artwork like that. So again, Golden Age art under $200, several pages into this weekly. There's another Iger Studio with a beautiful woman in the middle, turning her head, her back, and then she's turning her head over her shoulder.
Fight Comics or something like that. I saw that.
And then there's other, I think, jungle pages. So again, great example of that time period of art, Golden Age art. Most of it was tossed out. Very rarely do you find good examples, and this is a nice example that, particularly for me, reminded me of a modern artist, underground guy, Charles Burns. So just a nice example to have on your wall. So
that's really cool.
And I will leave the display as the Superman cover.
No, because I'll put stuff up there.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I brought some stuff too.
Any questions?
Any questions? Please
feel free to ask.
We really do like questions here.
So.
Xavier likes answering. So I got really happy because the one piece I really wanted. We got the catalogs today, at least a few of them, and the one piece we were pushing on to make the catalog cover is actually on the cover.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal to get a cover on the catalog.
A piece on the catalog. Yeah.
So I can't wait till you guys see that. So I brought I realized on the last show that I've been really neglecting Silver Age. I kind of don't bring Silver Age as much. The reason I don't is because, a lot of people have seen it before. But we do have some good Silver Age in this auction. We always do.
Yeah.
Mainly I bring Golden Age because it's rarer. People don't get to see it as much. But the one thing I realized when I was pulling, items this week is we have some Silver Age that's in high grade. I mean, and I know we get high grade items in the weekly sale, but every once in a while it astounds me that, an 8.0 Avengers 4 is not something to sneeze at. It's pretty high grade for an Avengers 4 and coming in. I did have a question from a client. His came back restored because his buddy, when they were younger, filled in the teeth there, colored it in. He colored it in with marker, so it came back restored. And he was asking why. And he goes, he was not done to upgrade the book or anything like that, because CGC recognizes any kind of marker or anything like that as a color in is considered color touch. Even though you and I know that it wasn't color touch, to be fair, they have to treat everybody equally. So that's the reason it came back restored. And to get that removed would be very difficult. They put a hole in the book because it's just the whole tooth area there. So his mouth looks like one gaping black hole. So, but an 8.0, and it's very, very clean. This is off-white pages, but as you can see on the back, it's pretty clean. It's just a nice set, solid 8.0. Beautiful book. And then I brought another, this is more Bronze Age. This is right at the end of the Silver Age. This is an X-Men 58 first appearance of Havoc, first appearance of him in the costume. This is a 9.4. And I don't know how many more are higher than this. And this will kind of show you a good contrast between Silver Age and Bronze Age. What's the census on this, Josh? Let's see how many higher there are on this. Let's see here. It's got to be a good amount. Keep going. There we go. So there's 94 9.4s and there's 49 higher. So think about that. There's 49 9.6s and 9.8s. 9.8s, there aren't that many 9.8s, but still, I mean, you're talking about.
Well, you're talking about
a lot of books.
Something that some Golden Age books. That's the whole census.
That's the whole census, right? Exactly. And this is, again, this is 69. So by then, it's a little easier to keep your books nicer by 69 than it was early 60s.
And there was more collectors at the time already.
Right,
well, so.
right. I mean, we're talking about another 8 years from the start of the Silver Age, or Marvel Silver Age, anyway. I brought this, so jumping into Golden Age. Anyway, the point being about the Silver Age is don't discount that I don't bring Silver Age. I just like talking about Golden Age. It's something I liked, I liked back in my 20s, and I know a lot about it. And I know a lot about Silver Age too, but they're just rare. And that's kind of why I like showing you guys. I like showing you guys rare stuff. But this is one and this is from that classic 1950 to 1955 time period that I harp on all the time. This is a Police Comics, and this is 109. Police Comics, started out with Plastic Man. And he had a really strong run, but in the 1950s, they jumped more into this crime and horror theme. And so these books are, A, they're much harder to find, B, they're much harder to find in high grade. But they're a little, I would say, racier. They're more dynamic as far as covers. She's in bondage. Yeah. She's gonna get slashed. He's coming in to rescue.
Her face is great.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So I would strongly, and they're really cheap compared to.
It's Reed Crandall art. That's why.
Yeah, it's really these police comics in this time frame are really cheap compared to other pre-code horror books and pre-code crime books. And so, these are the ones that I'd be looking at. If I could ever find these cheap, I'd get them. I used to have one. It wasn't as good as this one, but they're not easy to find. They're not that valuable and not that expensive to get. I brought this Justice Tracks the Guilty 57 just because I thought the nice, I've always been a Law and Order kind of guy, because if I ever did anything wrong, we've had this discussion, if I ever did anything wrong, no matter what it was, I always got caught when I was a kid. So I learned not to do things wrong.
Or not to get
caught. And so when I ever did anything really wrong as a kid, like lie, it was, man, I had to cover my tracks, because my parents were good at sniffing that out. I mean, they knew at a young age that they were going to bust me, and so I had to either get really good or I just didn't do it. Most of the time, I would say 98% of the time, I didn't lie or get caught because I just didn't do anything wrong. But this is kind of one of those things. So that because of that, I've always been on the side of Law and Order sort of person, even so much so that I cannot play a video game and be a bad guy. I cannot even, like, I get the heebie-jeebies. Like, it's a Red Dead, Red Dead Revolver 2? Redemption 2. You can really go bad. You could, like, murder everybody, do anything you wanted, and just be the baddest of bad person. I couldn't do it. I tried and I could not, literally could not do it.
For some people, it's a release of the real world.
Yes,
that's what
I'm the exact opposite. It actually stresses me out. I don't know why that is. It's something internally with me. But this would be, this is kind of, I look at this and instead of going, oh man, the horror on that guy's face, I'm like, good. I don't know what he did, but good.
I like the use of purple.
Yeah.
They put a purple belt and a purple Bible on it.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, but that's kind of the thing. It's kind of neat, this neat perspective. Instead of being behind and watching him walk through the chair, you're in front watching him walk into the chamber. Whether it's a gas chamber, whether it's a chair, or whatever, no matter what it is.
Or maybe just
the
the cell.
Seeing the front. Oh no, that's not the cell because he wouldn't be reading his last rites.
Oh, that's true.
That's the
true.
walk.
That's true.
That's the last mile for sure. So, and then you got the doctor behind him and all that stuff. But anyway, I really like this cover. I mean, like, that's one of the, I don't remember ever seeing this cover, but I really like that. That would be one I'd like.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so.
And it doesn't have an artist listed, which is
that's
crazy.
Really even more interesting. That's from '53.
That's probably a studio.
That is not a common book if I haven't seen it. So there's definitely. So I brought this one. Comments. How are lots of comics graded? What does average grade very fine mean in a lot of 8 books, for example? That means the average in of the 8 books is very fine. That's a good question. We do that. We do that because in a lot of, let's say, 50 books, it's impossible for us to list every grade. So we just give an average. So theoretically, there should be some a little bit lower, some a little bit higher than that VF and that in the 8 book lot.
So yeah, usually there will be some 7s, some 8.5s, but the average will be 8.
The average will be 8.
So, or we'll have an average of fine, very fines. You could possibly have a bunch of fines, a couple of 7s, and then a bunch of very fines, and then
Correct.
So it's just the easiest way to group a lot from a consignor and sell them with the lower value books, because for our purposes, every single lot has to be over $150 around there. $200 is usually what we want. And for any group lots, it's also the grouping of them has to be over $200 or $300. So.
Right. And everybody in the department does it just a small, minute differently. So like, I'll take my books, I'll take a whole stack of books and I'll grade good, very good, fine, very fine, near mint, and I'll put each in a pile. So my very fines should all really be very fines. Other people will put a bunch of them together if they're going to keep the run together.
It depends.
It'll really kind of depend, and I'll even change it now and then also depending on what I have in front of me. It's very hard to answer that question and say all the books are going to be very fine and the average are very fine. Sometimes they're going to be a wider range than that.
So it depends on the collection.
Right.
So if we have a run of, let's say, Spectacular Spider-Man, and the average is fine, very fine. You're going to have fines, you're going to have very fines, you're going to have fines, very fines. You might even have a 5.5 or a 9 in there, but it's just to sell that collection.
Right.
Now, if you see a collection where it's a group of Silver Age DCs or a group of Silver Age Marvel, and it's different titles, then the concentration of that grade will probably be closer to that grade. As opposed to a run will have several grades in that that average. So that's the best way we can explain it.
It's a very good question too, because we do
cause
try and be as accurate as possible, but there are times when it's
and for average grade, those 8 books will not be very fine. So most likely
they will be.
Well, the average will be like each one won't be an 8. One will be a 7, one will be an 8, one will be an 8.5, one will be a 7.5 or something like that. So that's kind of what it is.
Yep. Any other questions out there? We like questions. Bring them on in.
Especially if stuff like that where it's
we can easily answer them.
Yeah, creates more bidder confidence as well. So
sure. And we're I don't know if we're getting into that. I feel like grading more books and I wouldn't say single lots, raw books. I'm feeling more confident in putting them in raw as opposed to always needing to have it graded lately.
Well, especially with the values of books now
Right.
having gone down a little bit, it just doesn't make sense to our consigners financially to tell them, oh yeah, you've got to grade all this. No.
Sending a $200 book in is not something I would rather do. I would much rather, because then it comes with a, geez, I don't know what, a $50, $60, $70 fee on top of that. So I'd rather not. I'd rather just put it in the auction.
And most of those books, depending on what it is, horror or something.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. And like most of the horror books that we sell, they pretty much go for the same price.
Yeah, they'll go either way. They're so rare, it don't matter.
And so, yeah.
Speaking of horror, it's funny because I just got one in. I just got one back.
And you got your little toy.
I got a 4.5.
And you got your little.
And I got my little toy. So oh man, they came out with they came out with this line of pre-code horror toys. I wish I had the
Reaction Toys came out with.
Oh my god, I love it. So this
3
is
and
actually
3/4.
one of them.
Yeah.
It's this ghostly figure of LB Cole figure. And I'm not a toy person. I do not like toys. I do not like action figures. I never have. I had to buy them. They're pre-code horror. So one of them was the Black Cat 50. So the radium stick. He's got the radium stick, and his face is mangled off. And then the Ghostly Weird was another one. There was a Baffling. And what was the fourth one? I don't remember the fourth one. But Matt Griffin said there's a Die My Darling with like this Reaper, and it's supposed to be of the girl with the glass. And,
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I thought, I wish I'd have seen that. I didn't see that. That would have been cool. But I like this. This Ghostly Weird 122. I'm a big fan of this book. Huge fan of this book. I love LB Cole. Huge fan of LB Cole. Apparently he did something like 650 something covers. And that doesn't even count the internal pages. I mean, the hundreds, if not thousands, of internal pages he did. But he was in charge of his own publishing company at one point, and I don't necessarily know if that was Star, Star, the basis thereof. But he's very prolific. If he's not equal to Schomburg, he's right behind him. As far as popularity goes.
And you can definitely notice one of his
covers. You always know
because of the colors.
Because of the colors. They clash so intricately. I mean, nobody in their right mind would put yellow, red, green in this kind of pattern together, but yet when he does it, it works.
Oh, it pops.
It makes it look so amazing.
It's like day glow colors.
And we've had this dream, and we know now, we've had this dream of just opening a door and seeing all his artwork, because his artwork doesn't ever come up, and it's because apparently it was destroyed.
It was destroyed in the flood.
And so, can you imagine opening up a locker or a warehouse and there were 100 covers by LB Cole there? You'd lose your mind.
Or going into an attic.
Especially being something like this, or the Mask 1 cover, or and the Blue Bolt covers. Oh my God, what I wouldn't do to see that original art and how beautiful it would be.
The line work, just to see.
It's insane, because there is one, and there is one cover. It's a Blue Bolt cover.
Well, we've sold the Target.
We've sold it a few. Oh, the Target. That's what
it was. The Godzilla.
It was the King
Kong
looking is the ape. And if you look at that is a twice up, but it's bigger than twice up. It's really large, and the detail is absolutely stunning.
Yes, Ken. It's a very nice, ghostly weird.
And I'm so happy.
And for the grade, it's great presentation.
That's a nice 3.5.
The cover, I mean, even the back cover looks great. So
for 3.5, it's a nice 3.5. It's probably the nicer 3.5 you'll see in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just got a 4.5 in today, back from CGC. I just love it. I love this book. It's such a good book. And what's the census on that? It's got to be really low. And this kind of goes to the 1950s stuff. And so it's a 3.5.
There's 7 of them.
There's 7, and there's about 25, 30 more above that. Mm-hmm. But think about that. What's the far right say on that? There should be a total number. Josh, you should be able to scroll the census over. Yep, up a little bit. Josh, up a little bit. There you go. Now scroll the census over to the. You should be able to scroll the census over.
I don't see a book.
There you go. There's 68 total on the census, and we were looking at the Avengers 4, and there's
no, there was the X-Men. There was
the X-Men.
93.
There was 90 above that, and a 9.4.
Yeah.
I'll hold that the last one because it's
That's a cool
beyond
cover.
rare.
Yeah, that's a cool cover.
These last two are very rare books. This is Blood of the Harvest. It's kind of a promotional item against communism and what communism was doing in the 50s. So this was from 1950. It doesn't have a number, and there are various iterations of this. You know, they have some of them have a price on them, some don't. That sort of thing.
It's like Heidi.
Kind of, yeah. But this is very rare, and you get made. It's not made with a slick paper cover. It's made with a newspaper cover. What's the census on this? And at a 7.0, there will be higher ones because the paper covers tend to stay nicer.
Yeah.
But the census is going to be very low because these books are very hard to find.
Yeah,
and this isn't a weekly sale. So let's see what the census is here.
And it has a atomic explosion panel. So
this is a rare book. When this was brought to my attention, I was like, yeah, that's going to be a big deal. Yeah, there's 38 on the census, and there's only 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 total higher. So it's pretty high grade for this book, and that's in the sale. And
that's in a weekly.
That's cool. In a weekly sale, yeah. A little bit of foxing on the back. That's what really did the damage for the grade.
Again, for the time period, that's very common.
And I like the back, the price of liberty. I love that.
And the Liberty Bell. So.
That's really cool. The last thing that I brought was this amazing Mystery Funnies, and this is in the weekly, and it just blows my mind. This, we're talking about rare, this is sickeningly rare. Just the line work.
No, the line work, and then look at the colors also.
Yeah,
it's almost like they use the rainbow. Sorry.
It's absolutely unbelievable. And this is the Cosmic Airplane
Pedigree.
And I don't know if you know anything about that, but apparently it was like an advertising thing. So inside you would see check marks as to that, and that denotes the Cosmic Airplane. There would be check marks as to something either they used or something they liked or something about that would cause them to I'm vague references.
So it's almost like Mile High, where he was using it
as
reference.
Some sort of reference, yeah. But they would mark in the book, and they would have all these check marks throughout the book.
That's cool.
I've never seen a rare one, so I don't, not personally, I don't know for sure. It's kind of what I was told secondhand. But the census on this is from 1939. This is April of 1939. These Centaur books are incredibly hard to find. The census on this has to be incredibly low. And this is a 4 or 5, which really for a Centaur is kind of high grade. It can be at times. So we're looking at 14 on the census total. 14. And think about that. When I say a 1950 to 1955 is rare and there's 30 on the census, this is pre-1940 and there's a 14 on the census, and there's only 4 higher than this grade. 5, no, that's not right. 5, 6, 7, 8 higher than this grade. So 4, 5 is really your average. It's going to be your average grade at best. Yeah. You'd be lucky to have a 4 or 5.
Especially for like Centaur books. Those are you'd rarely see them in high grade.
Yeah, they're incredibly rare. So this is in the weekly. I would love to own this. It's beautiful.
That's a great book. Yeah.
So anything else for us? That's my last book. What'd you think about my book? I love that.
Okay.
I would say my book. It's not my book. But
I love those Centaurs. Yeah. That one where the green monsters on it.
The Nazi monkey. The Nazi
like 22 or something like that.
Well, it's ridiculous.
And when we had 2 of them, but they were both low grade. I mean, can you imagine finding that in high grade or something like that? It'd be insane.
You would be worth. And they went for like thousands.
They went for like 20 grand.
The 1.5 went for like 15, and the 2.0 went for like 20 something thousand. That's how rare. And they had 2 in their attic. That was insane.
That's always good stories when there's like, I have 2 of one of the rarest books.
Well, that's what happened with the Frankenstein. That's what happened with the Frankenstein poster.
Yeah.
They had 2 of them, and we got the higher grade one. And it went for, I don't know, I think they went for 250-ish.
Oh no, it went close to 3, I think.
3?
Yeah.
So then it hammered at 250.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's insane. Imagine just opening a box. And, I got this $250,000 poster just sitting here.
It's just like that guy.
Life is tough.
Missouri collection. Life is tough.
He does not know. He's gonna be.
Oh,
happy.
he's gonna be ecstatic.
That was a cool collection. I could see some of it.
It's definitely.
So explain it. What were some of the books like? What?
So half of the collection pretty much was funny animals, which doesn't really sell for much. But the other half, 25% of it was DC superheroes, and the other 25% was all horror books. And there was about 3,000 books in the collection, so about 1,500 of them are nice books.
Yeah, I saw them being stacked up on the table, and I was like, wow.
So, and the collector had a run of pretty much almost all the ECs, so that's gonna be and early ECs too, pre-horror and stuff like that. Some of the rarer ones, but harder to find, but not as valuable as, again, the horror or the sci-fi.
That's amazing.
So
it's amazing the stuff we get to see.
Oh yes.
Like
and find it, like that. Yeah. Being able to see where it was originally there and how it was stored, and it's just like.
You said the bins they were in were really valuable, almost.
Well,
too, weren't they?
The comics were in these wooden crates. And when I saw the crates, I told the consignor, it's just like, oh, you might want to look these up. I think that they should be worth, they should be worth something to a collector, because they're not only old, but they were in wooden DuPont explosive crates, which I found hilarious. And the consignor confirmed, he said, yes, I looked them up, and they sell for about $100 to $200 on eBay. So even the crates that the comics were in had some value. So
I wonder what was in that house. I would have liked to have gone there.
So and that's kind of, again, that's why I like treasure hunting and stuff like that, because it was kind of a treasure hunt, and hearing the story, knowing how it came about, and it's just like it's crazy to just bunch of 40s, 50s, and 60s comics just sitting in the middle of nowhere. So
in the middle of nowhere.
Literally in the middle of nowhere.
It's amazing how that happens.
So if anybody has any more questions, always feel free to send them in the comments, or send an email to Brian or I.
And subscribe to the channel too.
Oh, yes.
We want you to subscribe to the channel. Ask us questions. We do like that. You can always reach me at brianw@ha.com.
And you can reach me at xavierc@ha.com. So
thanks for joining us today, and we will see you in 2 weeks. What is 2 weeks? Should be.
Well, we're going to be close to the signature.
It should be right before the signature sale, right?
So
I
we'll
think
have
the next one's going to be the signature.
We'll have some nice art and some nice comics.
Big items. So. Yeah, it'll be great. So don't forget to join us then, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.